Greetings and salutations. What's happening, everybody? It's me, Robert Phoenix. Let me take out the earbuds. Yes, indeed. It is another morning, the start of a brand new day, and you got to have a little cup of peachy. A little cup of peachy to start your day. That's right. Yes. Yes. Jasper's in the house. He's just off here, stage right, holding down the wing. So we got cat power in the studio today, which is always welcome. How is everyone? How y'all doing? How y'all doing out there? We have a great show in store for you today. Let's see who's in the house. Who do we got? Ah, there he is, back at the leadoff position. DJ MC. What's going on, brother Mike? Kelly B. Meow meow kitty poop. Dova Haza. Hello, Dova Haza. Christina Jerzik. CJ, what's happening? Good to see you. Janice Phillips. Hey, you lovelies, let's go. Day 2 of Water Fast and me and hubby's 29th anniversary. Lack of food does strange things to your brain. Yeah, I've been experimenting with one meal during the day, which has been mostly berries and unsweetened Bulgarian yogurt. And then some protein at night. So I've been kind of lightening the load on the digestive system in the body. And it's actually been really good. Really, really good, I have to say. So not quite a water fast, Janice. Big ups and mad respect to you. Mary Lee. Uh-oh, you got a little pink eye. I've never had pink eye. I have never had pink eye. I have never had pink eye. I have never had shingles. I have never had psoriasis. The heartbreak of psoriasis. I've never had it. I have had other things, but I have not had those things. I'm sorry, Mary Lee. I hope you get better quicker. Mary Grether, she's here. Hi, Mary. Thor at the door. What's happening, Steve-O? Good to see you. Sharon Lewis. Just watched LeBron James on Benny Johnson's show have an eye glitch where his lizard eyes appeared. Yeah, LeBron feels like a project, doesn't he? I mean, he just feels like a project. Like they don't know who his dad is, right? And LeBron James is so athletically gifted that even though his mother did not have, quote unquote, the middle class necessary means to raise him, he was on the list early on, and he was driving like a Camaro or something in high school, right? Like there are people that were supporting LeBron James. And one of I remember very early on in LeBron James's career, there was more obvious Illuminati stuff. Like he still does the Illuminati ritual with the powder and all that shit, right at the beginning of a game. But there was more kind of on the table in the first, I don't know, 3 years of his career. And I remember seeing him with Warren Buffett. Like, how do you get to hang out with Warren Buffett, who is an interesting character unto himself? But there used to be a lot of hip hop channels that were into exposing the occult and Illuminati and sacrifices. I don't know if they're still there on YouTube. A lot of these things are very hard to find and they're scrubbed. But back in the day, there were plenty of them. And these were people who were inside the business and talking about this. I think this was a website. It wasn't. It might have been Fear of Black Assassins or something like that. Anyway, talked about how LeBron James had to go to the parties, but the parties that he went to were a lighter version of the darker Diddy parties. By the way, anything happened to Diddy? Became a big deal, and all of a sudden, no Diddy. It's because Diddy's a spook. Nothing happens to spooks until they decide to extract them. Let's see. Brandy Herrera is here. Hi, Brandy. We got Astro Sam checking in with us today. Let's see. T. Jordan, live from the living room. There she is, a lovely and talented one. Saving Austin one tooth at a time, Dr. Joan S. Laura E. Hello, good morning. Greetings back. Let's see. Warlanda. Warlanda, do you have any coffee left? Warlanda, I got 2 sips left. That's one. That's 2. That's the first cup of coffee I've had this week. Moira in NYC. Greetings, Moira. SP Dimples checking in from Europa. All right, who else do we have here? Scott Jerzik. Buongiorno, Scott. Hot Dan, it's Robin Dan. NYC representing. Yes, you can become a member of the 11th house. I'm going to do some posting over there today. I'm going to hang a few shingles over there on the 11th house side of things. Wildfires are no joke. No, they're not. I was talking to my friend yesterday in California. I'm talking about the Jasper fires. Sounds a little dewy. Janine, what's going on? Greetings, Liddy Lou. Had a Liddy Lou. Road trip 1981. Darling. Hi, darling. Monica Farrow from Louisiana. Birthplace of my father. I'm going to do my father's chart tomorrow for the star of the day. You get to see a physical representation of the old guy. Well, he was old, but he's not here anymore. Rainbows and butterflies. Rainbows and butterflies. Green-eyed crow. Soul traveler. Miss Nikki. Hi, Miss Nikki. Yes, my man Ryan would like to remind you, please hit the like and subscribe. And hit the notification bell. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that. Sandy D. Hey, Sandy. We got Leon Ott in the house. Leon, I hope you enjoyed your happy birthday song. It was a multi-layered song. Multi-layered song. Hedy Lamar. Greetings. Barbara Boots. Checking in. Got to go to PA for a vet appointment. Lori Camacho. How about that? We got a Lori Camacho sighting. Checking in from SoCal. We got Sagittarius energy in the house. What's going on, Lori? Good to see you. Healing Heart Rosie. Yes, you can buy me a cup of coffee if you like over at Buy Me a Coffee. There's the link right there, also in the description. Beautiful background photo. Where is that? Let me think. Where is this? Believe it or not, this is Vermont. No, New Hampshire. This is New Hampshire. This is New Hampshire. Yeah. I don't know if it's Lake Winnipesaukee or not. It's one of the lakes in New Hampshire, but it's New Hampshire. Thanks, SP. Misbehaving too. What's happening with you? Claire. Hello, Claire. Joe Potter, berries and cheesecake. One of the best. One of the best. Pixie Peterson. Hi, Pixie. Greetings. Maria de Ange. Anybody following the Olympics? See the trans boxer beat the shit out of that woman? Oh, my God. First of all, I don't think women should box. I'm sorry. I know I'm old school. They should not box. But I mean, having a dude box against a woman, that's not even fair. Sorry. Bulgarian yogurt for the win. Best bacterium in the world. I'll second that. It's my favorite. It's my favorite yogurt. The law is here. Lisa Ann White, Miss Nikki, me too, Robert. I'm ready for the famine. I'm not that ready for it, but I don't know. It's a summer thing. Don't want to eat a lot of food when it's hot. It's just the way it is. Sandra Wells, what's happening, cuz? Old school in the house. Glemma Spank. Hi, Glemma. I think we're just about caught up here. A Sigurd. I caught a few minutes of the Kamala rally last night. Mordor the musical. Oh my God. It was grim. It was grim. And people are supposed to get excited about Megan the Stallion shaking her ass for Kamala. And by the way, I think code switching is embarrassing. I don't care how culturally appropriate it is. It's just fucking embarrassing. Kamala Harris talks like a white person 80% of the time, and you get her in front of a mostly black audience. She starts to code switch, and she's not even very good. If you don't know what code switching is, it's changing up your dialect when you're in different environments. Bad. Nicholas Grimm, what's happening? Yes, the site is back up and running. We had a bit of an issue with the checkout process, but that was addressed last night. So if you'd like to get a reading, there you go. Jackie Delario, the Empress of South Jersey. Cheyenne, I grew up 40 minutes from where LeBron grew up in Northeast Ohio. He's in Akron, grew up in Akron, right? There used to be a store a long time ago when I was a kid called Akron. And they specialized in like imports from Japan and Mexico. It was like an import store, Akron. And we used to go there. It was in San Francisco, down by Fisherman's Wharf. And I'll never forget, it had this overwhelming scent of bamboo and incense and um, jasmine tea. There was the overwhelming smell of Akron. Bamboo, incense, jasmine tea. It wasn't bad, but it was like it was like you were in another country just by stepping into that store. What country it was, I don't know, but it was clearly not US. Yes, please come sign up right there. Harvest Moon event. It's going to be off the hook. Mario from Symbolic Studies is going to be on with us. Uh, DJ Pebbles got surprises along the way. Oh, Sam got fired. Well, Sam, as they say, when one door closes, another opens. Hang in there. Let's see. Wife got offered a job 3 hours away. We lived in my parents' basement for a big scare, much nervous. Okay. It is time to emerge from your parents' basement. Think of yourself as like a cicada. You're a cicada. And it's time for you to emerge. Although you'll live longer than a cicada, Nicholas. Let's see. Yeah, the CIA is like, yeah, lay off Diddy. No more Diddy news. Amy Gill, there's a beautiful morning happening in central Indiana. Joan W., good morning to you. We got some Hoosiers. Hoosiers in the house. Can of soda, seriously? It is not just any can of soda. It is green cola. And it is sugar free. That's right. Sugar free. It has stevia. No sugar, no calories, no preservatives, no artificial sweeteners or flavors. And the caffeine is from green coffee beans, hence the green. Yes. Let's see. Who else do we have here? Start of the day for me tomorrow is my little girl, little Leo girl. All right, cool. Valeria Rubens, Maceo Gabbard. Maceo, take us to the bridge. Take us to the bridge. Come on, Maceo. Take us to the bridge. Veronica's Barn. Fantastic is here. Hey, we got a Bill Brockman sighting. Lionsgate 888. All right. Da, 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 da. Anybody else here? Anybody else? Anybody else? That's nuts. It's terrible. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. Scrubbies. What's happening, Tamara? Megan the man horse. She has a degree in public health administration. I shit you not. Megan Thee Stallion actually graduated from college with a degree in public health administration. That's funny. Code switching is just being a really bad and blatant sociopath, right? Totally. Rich says we call that a wigger. Yeah. AOC does her version of code switching too. It's terrible. I like Jasmine. I like Jasmine. Booty Cheetah checking in from the Middle West. I am fine, Robert. Sam, I know you're fine. But I have to chime in. Let's see. Who else do we have here? Melissa Stanton, Joe Williams. Soon I'll need a show just for hellos. I know, right? All right, we're done. We're done. We're done. Let's get into the weather. But I love seeing you all, and I love seeing your comments. And it does make for good content in many cases. All right, let's get going. This is the weather. The weather. The weather. So today, over in 15 minutes, we're going to get off the Kamala train for a day. And we're going to have a look at what's going on over in England and in Venezuela. And the world is on fire. If you saw the show that I did last Friday here on YouTube about Children of Men, there's a sequence near the beginning of the movie where it says "World on Fire," and there are all these things happening in all these different places around the world, and it just feels like we're moving into the predictive programming stage of Children of Men. And of course, what's happening in England is a long overdue backlash against the forced migration to England and other countries in Europe. I think Ireland will follow suit. All it takes is one event like what happened at and this is really weird. This is the weird part, is that the whole thing started at a community center where they were doing some kind of Taylor Swift influenced dance yoga thing, right? And if we think of Taylor Swift as being satanic, and I think there's a fair amount of people that do, it's like just think about the music, the generative force. When I say music, I'm talking about what's embedded inside of the music. Because You have to understand there are frequencies and tones that producers will put inside of music. And people will, of course, not be able to hear them, but it will entrain them. Right. So there's that inside the music. And then there's just the what I would call the satanic reverberation and those waves sort of cascading out of that community center. And then you have this marauding, you know, insane person from Rwanda. That's a really good idea. Let's import Rwandans into England, one of the most unstable countries in the world. And it's yeah, these are cultures that are very much connected to what they call a syncretic tradition, and they worship a variety of quote unquote local gods. Now that changes as the uh, we'll call it Vodun, right? Vodun or Yoruba. When that moves across the Atlantic and lands in Brazil, you have Umbanda and Candomblé, and they become much more syncretic in that they incorporate Jesus and Mary and have Native America or Amazonian Indian deities, as well as a lot of the local gods that are worshipped in the Vodun or the Yoruba ceremonies, right? So we're talking like Eshu. Eshu was like the devil, right? So it's a syncretic religion based on local gods and deities, supernatural forces. So if there is a culture that is vibrationally familiar with that, and then you have this Taylor Swift thing going on, and then you have these deeply embedded, I believe, tones, perhaps even messages inside the music. Like, would somebody who would be open and sensitive to those kinds of uh, influences react to something like that? It's quite possible. Now, I am not blaming the whole thing on Taylor Swift and a Rwandan whose supernatural radar might be attuned to it, but it is something to think about because it did happen at a place where they were playing Taylor Swift's music, and it was a whole thing dedicated to Taylor Swift. Some things are right in front of your face, and if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. Right, but the world is starting to go into that chaotic spin, and I think we can really uh, take a look at what's going on with all these mutable planets and what's happening with these mutable planets. We have Mercury in the third degree now of Virgo, getting ready to go retrograde. And what's it doing? It is squaring Mars. And remember, I talked about how basically in the next 3 days, by the time we hit Friday, Saturday, come the weekend, we're going to go full on Mercury Mars square. Mercury's going to get more into square with Jupiter, and the temperature and the tempers are going to go through the roof. Remember, Mercury is mercurial, right? Mercury rules thermometers, and squaring Mars, squaring Jupiter. To me, that means that there's an increase in heat and the mercury level inside the thermometer rises. So we have a rise in temperature, physical temperature, and we have a rise in emotional temperature. So people are going to get hot, right? Hot under the collar. The Democrats are out in force, and their new gaslighting campaign is Republicans are weird. JD Vance is weird. Donald Trump is weird. That's their attack strategy, right? And so they're all laughing, right? They've just decided to turn the Republican Party. They're going to mock them. That's their strategy. Meanwhile, if you really want to boil it down, they're really fun. Now, I'm not saying there aren't some weird MAGA people, or there aren't some weird Republicans. You know, it's really weird. I was watching the interview with Mike Lee and Tucker Carlson. Starts off really good. Starts off about Biden and how he's incapacitated. But then both Tucker and Mike Lee reminisce about the good old days when Joe Biden was avuncular and, he was always really great with people and remembered things and had great send offs. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, this guy's a shitbag. And he's always been a shitbag. And they're kind of speaking fondly of the old Joe. And I'm like, what world are you living in? And to me, it just reinforces that there is a group of people that have a political mindset where you work across the aisle and you do all these other things, and it's all part of the process, right? Well, that process is failing miserably. It was again, if we bring it back to astrology, it's that Mercury square Uranus. I'm like, I'm kind of shocked. Like, this is how you guys operate? Like, we out here, perhaps we're naive and we just don't understand how the big boys and the big girls play politics. But from our perspective, which I think is a reasonable perspective, these people are fucking corrupt. And yeah, they may do a bad deal here and a bad deal there and a bad deal here, but they may do one or good two deals. And it's like, then it's okay. But what happened is that over time, it's all about attrition. And the bad deals outweigh the good deals. And now we're living with a bunch of bad deals. So this Mercury Uranus square, again, it's starting to come out of a little bit, about 7 degrees, but it's like receiving information. It's like, what? Really? You guys? And by the way, Mike Lee knew a while ago that Joe Biden was incompetent and he had no access to Joe Biden. No access to Joe Biden. Well, if you knew that, then why didn't you say something about that? Venus Uranus square. Venus is getting real close to coming into that hard square with Uranus. And that is disruption inside of relationship. Uh-oh. You got a reset moment here. I'll be right back. Oh, hold on. Looks like it might be okay. Let's see. No, reset moment. Hang in there. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Okay, we're back. Thank you for your patience. Let's get back into the weather. And here we go. All right. We were talking about Venus, Uranus square. It's disruptive. And Venus and Leo is very proud. Very, very proud. Be on the lookout for people who say, I don't feel appreciated. You don't respect me. Whoa, where'd that come from? And if it's you who are feeling that, by the way, that may be true. It may be true. You may feel like you're not appreciated or not respected inside the context of a relationship. Just be careful with that. We're talking fixed square. Do you ever see Dave Chappelle when keeping it real goes wrong? That's what we're talking about. when keeping it real goes wrong. Now, on the flip side, Venus Uranus squares also introduce people into our lives that don't fit. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they can't be in our lives, but you scratch your head and you ask yourself, how the fuck did this person get here? Right. So you kind of grapple with the fit with the Venus Uranus square. So it's a very explosive and, again, fixed period. Don't let your pride get in the way. When keeping it real goes wrong. This Sun Pluto opposition is still very operative. I've been watching some Tucker Carlson clips, and he talked about what happened with Biden and Kamala and the whole process. And it's like the masks are off, right? This is what I've been saying about this Sun Pluto opposition. Like the masks are off. They're not even pretending anymore. There is no process, right? There is no protocol. It's just we're going to make the rules up as we go. Now, there's another version of this, which is happening in Venezuela with Nicolas Maduro. There's your Sun Pluto opposition. That's a CIA sponsored coup. And they've been wanting to throw a coup in Venezuela for years. And they just waited for the election to make it happen. And apparently, Maduro is going to blow the lid on everything. Kennedy assassination, 9/11. He's a Sagittarian. Go big or go home. So this is a really interesting opposition. We're still in it. Like we'll be in this opposition for another couple days. At 11 degrees, it starts to separate, right? It's starting to separate a bit now, but you can see what's happening. Like the masks are off. Uh, what else we have? We have some nice sextile action going on. Sun, Mars, Jupiter. So keep your spirits up. Stay optimistic. Keep your heart open. I think that's really the challenge here. That's really the challenge. We saw that Mercury square coming in harder to Mars. Wow. It just feels like there's a huge amount of tension brewing. You say, oh, it's brewing. No, it's really brewing. It's really brewing. And again, from a collective perspective, like with Harris, there's a huge amount of gaslighting going on. Like they're just pouring gas all over the Republicans and the GOP. Right? That's what they're doing. And they're just lighting it, right? And so they're goading people. They're goading them. Oh, JD Vance is weird. Republicans are weird. Donald Trump is weird. They're very good. They are on the attack. They're very good at being offensive, literally and figuratively. And then they have the media behind them, which helps drive their engine. So so here's what happens when things like we've talked about this before, there's the trickle down effect. So if at the top of their so-called pyramid, they're doing this gaslighting, right? This gaslighting, which is what they're doing. It affects people who follow those people. It affects those people who follow those people. So be ready for a bunch of nasty fucking people. Like the nasties in the air. And they are going to feel empowered. That's a word to keep your eye out for. Empowered and emboldened to basically tell you how they feel. Right? This is going to be a big part of this because they're being given permission from the top down. Oh, you're weird. You're all your anti-vaccine stuff and all your stuff about kids and pedophiles. That's just weird. That's just weird. I guarantee you people will start to mimic those talking points. That's how programmable people are. So it's going to create a lot of tension, a great deal of tension. And what they really want is they want to provoke the so-called right and Republicans. They want to provoke them and get them into a fight. They're very clever. They're very, very clever. Moon is in Gemini today, separating out a little bit from Jupiter and getting into a closer square with Saturn. That's not an easy day per se to begin to express one's emotions. Moon Saturn squares. Okay, so here's where I think this is going to land today. Keep your eye on the homeless situation, because there are things that are happening in the homeless situation that are disturbing. Gavin Newsom has now outlawed homelessness after who knows how many years. When I was a kid, I used to go to Underground Records in San Jose. And this is when I was a freshman in high school. And we had this thing called double session, which meant that there were too many kids in the school. So the freshman class didn't go to school until like 12:15. And everybody else got to school like 7:45. So we had like time on our hands. Get up, like, oh shit, I got about 4 hours before I have to go to school. So I would catch a bus and I would go to downtown San Jose before school, and I would go to Underground Records to check out the records. I was a freshman. And it was always weird because that was my first introduction to transvestite. And it made me really uncomfortable. It was like, you're fucking up my record buying experience. Like, why can't you be like the cool dude from High Fidelity, even though High Fidelity wasn't a movie at that point, right? Like, why can't you just be the cool rock and roll guy behind the counter? No, you're a transvestite who's unhappy. Wasn't even a happy transvestite. I had to go in there and get my records. And just, okay. But the thing that I remember about that is this is around the time that Reagan emptied out all the mental hospitals in California. And so you had a bunch of people just wandering around downtown San Jose. They had no place to go. That's how far back the homeless issue goes. That's why I'm bringing this up. So that was around 1974, and it hasn't gotten any better. Period. End of story. So you're going to hear a lot more about the homeless situation. The housing issue is really big. It's impacted right now. Unless you're buying a brand new home from one of the brand new home manufacturers, which I've talked about, you're getting better interest rates. I would say overall, today is a slightly uncomfortable day. Right? It is a slightly uncomfortable day. There is a high degree of intolerance and annoyance in the air. Doesn't mean you can't move through it. Certainly you can. Right? We still have that Mars-Pluto trine, which is great. You can multitask, get things done. Try to stay out of the noise. Try to stay out of the noise and just be on the lookout for people that are taking gaslighting down to the personal level, because it will happen. I guarantee it. Okay, here we go. Star of the day. Let's get back in and get some banner space happening here so we can talk about True Hemp Science. And I'm just going to go right over to the star of the day as I talk about True Hemp Science. True Hemp Science, besides me, Robert Phoenix, is the only sponsor of the show. And the reason I have True Hemp Science as a sponsor is because they have great products. And you know what? It is True Hemp Science time. And I'm going to have a little dose of 19 right here in the show. Look at that golden amber right there. Now, that is some high quality CBD. Under the tongue. Mm, the taste of terpenes in the morning. Nothing like it. Anyway, if you're interested in 19 and any other product from True Hemp Science, just go there, truehempscience.com, type in 15MINS, spend $100 more, get a free goodie bag. More than likely, you'll get a little gummy of moonlight. You will not be disappointed. I guarantee you. Spend $100, $150 or more, you'll get free shipping. And there's always a 30-day money-back guarantee. TrueHempScience.com. All right, let's get into the star of the day. The star of the day is not a person. It is a place. It is the Bronx. And this is a very interesting chart for a very interesting locale. I know we have some New York in the house today. So the Bronx was actually started by a person named William Bronx, Bronck's. That's where they get the name Bronx. They just kind of Nation of Islam'd it, right? The Bronx. And this is a really interesting picture because during the 1970s, the Bronx was burning all the time. All the time. And people thought, oh, it's arson or no, these were controlled burns that were set up by the city of New York. There's a really interesting article if you're at all curious about the Bronx and the fires of the 70s. It's the New York Post, Why the Bronx Burned. And it gets into these controlled burns. But more than just controlled burns, they also began to reduce the fire stations that were adjacent to. So it was all planned. Right? This was their way to kind of raise these buildings that have been there for who knows how long. You know, I think when you look at some of these buildings, I think you're kind of drifting into Tartarian territory. And it's a very bizarre kind of period of the neighborhood. And you can actually see it here with Pluto on you. So we have 29 degrees Taurus on the ascendant. And you have Pluto in the first house. And Pluto would really represent a burning, right? That's what Pluto does. And this, you know, this is a hard place. This is a hard fucking place to live. Look at that Grand Cross. So if you were born in the Bronx, you grew up in the Bronx, you know people from the Bronx, School of Hard Knocks. I actually, when I was a kid, I remember going to the Bronx because we had family there. And I remember one of my early memories sitting on a door stoop leading into one of these brownstones in the Bronx. Obviously, more habitable area than this. But Pluto plays a real role here, right? The burning of the environment, and then going from kind of one place to another place, and it leads to a bunch of gentrification and city housing, which is now what's populating. Like HUD housing, right? Government housing. That's what replaced a lot of these very, very old buildings. And, prior to these buildings being burned, this is where kids would go and play. I mean, this was kind of a heavy environment, right? Now, what's also interesting about the Bronx is that it is most oftenly referred to as the home of hip hop. And my guy, Sagittarian Mind, did a chart for the first public hip hop event, which he claims happens in 1973. I believe on April 14th. And it is when DJ Kool Herc makes his debut. And if you don't know about DJ Kool Herc, he was from Jamaica. And in Jamaica, they have a history of having these sound systems, where they would play these dub records and stuff like that, right? So the DJ in Jamaica was a very big deal and did something quite different than DJs in America did. So DJs in America would basically go from one track to another track. It was just, if you went to a discotheque, you would just segue. But DJ Kool Herc had effects on his records. So he had a basically mixing board where he could add echo and reverb and do a bunch of stuff, right? So it's generally thought of that April, I believe, 14th or 15th, 1973 is the birth of hip hop. So I looked at it, and at that point, transiting Jupiter is right on the midheaven. And so DJ Kool Herc would throw these parties in the streets, right, or in the parks, and people would show up. And that gets people thinking about music differently. So if you know anything about hip hop, it is really dominated by the sign of Gemini, which is verbal, right? And there's a lot of back and forthing with hip hop. They have like ciphers and battles and throwdown. That's very Gemini stuff. Like somebody goes 8 Mile shit, right? The person comes back goes that's very Gemini. It's very Gemini. It doesn't really solve anything, right? But it's a workout in verbal and mental gymnastics. So I think it's interesting that this is a first house that's dominated by Gemini. And you have, again, like DJ Kool Herc, Africa Bambaataa, Boogie Down Productions, like a lot of the early. So hip hop has basically two boroughs, right? There's Brooklyn and then there's the Bronx. But it really starts in the Bronx, which is more uptown, right? And Brooklyn tends to be more, not quite downtown, but on a parallel more with downtown, right? You take a bridge, you go to Brooklyn. The Bronx is definitely on the uptown side of things. So it was a very interesting time in the late 1970s when people like Africa Bambaataa and Grandmaster Flash, like they're all from the Bronx, and they wind up migrating down to the places like the CBGB, and there's this really interesting crossover between punk and new wave and hip hop, and you get Rapture by Blondie, which I think is a terrible song, but anyway, I may be in the minority. However, you do get Wordy Rapping Hood by the Tom Tom Club, which I think is a great song. So again, it's very Gemini, which is why I'm bringing this up. It's the interplay of two different cultures, two different styles, very Bronxian in a lot of ways. And I think I'm not from the Bronx, but I would assume that people who are very proud of being from the Bronx because of the sun and Mars and the moon, all in the fourth house, right? They may be poor as shit, or not have as much as other people, but it doesn't matter to them, right? They'll live and die with the Bronx. Bronx forever. And what's also interesting here is when you look at Leo as a fire sign, and these fires that took place in the Bronx during the 1970s, well, it makes a lot of sense. And Saturn up in the 10th house in Aquarius, it's like, okay, we're going to make an executive decision and we're going to burn the fucker down. I mean, it all started with John Lindsay as mayor of New York. And that was a controlled demolition. So we talk about fires, like the Jasper fire or the Paradise fire. There were the Bronx fires, but they were not dew-based fires, right? These were fires that were intentionally set It's like what we have here in the hill country. Sometimes people will set fires and burn brush. Well, these were buildings that they would let burn. Now these are brick buildings, so the fires that they set had to be fairly hot. And then even if it didn't completely engulf the entire building and remove most of the structure, it weakened the facade of the brick, which made it easier to be torn down. So this is a very interesting neighborhood, and the history of the neighborhood, from the fires to the beginnings of hip hop, the resurrection with Pluto on the ascendant, right? Being proud to be there, but also Leo, the fire sign, fourth house in the home. Like, it's a very fascinating chart. Grand Cross, but not an easy place. Not an easy place. True Note is in Sagittarius. What's interesting about the Bronx is that it became really the first melting pot of New York City. Like, that's where the immigrants went. So you had Irish, you had Italians, you had Polish people. Eventually, you have the Jews coming in, right, from Central Europe. And then eventually, you have migrants from the West Indies, blacks from the southern part of the United States, Haitians. The Bronx is really the melting pot. Literally, I mean, think of all the fires. It really becomes a literal melting pot, but it is the melting pot of New York City. And eventually, those people would migrate out of the Bronx and start their own neighborhoods in other places in New York, such as Little Italy being one of them, right? And then eventually, the Jews would leave, and where would they go? I think they would go where Brooklyn, right? Brooklyn, other parts of Manhattan. And what would be left from that sort of diaspora was the black, mostly African American, with some connection to Haiti and perhaps some uh, Latin American countries, or more like islands like Puerto Rico. Those were the people that were left in the Bronx for the most part. And it was like, okay, let's light it up. Right. But that's that true node in Sagittarius. It really was a place where you would have relationships with people from like other parts of the world. And even this music thing that I'm talking about, right? Like hip hop and new wave, sort of all, to me, that's very true node in Sagittarius. Now they work it out locally, uptown, downtown, but it's still there. It's still in the chart itself. So there you go. Um, One more thing. I think a lot of promises have been broken in this area. With this Jupiter Neptune conjunction, a lot of promises, a lot of agreements that just really don't come to fruition. But somebody's getting paid. I'll tell you that right now. Somebody's getting paid. All right. A very interesting start of the day. And if you're from that area, I hope that this resonated with you. And if you're not, I hope you found it interesting. And with that, we come to the end of the show, which is always a sad moment for me. But in 20, 25 minutes, we got a new show over on 15 Minutes of Flame Boxcast, and we do simulcast on Rumble, and we're going to get into the world on fire. We're going to take a break. We will talk a little bit about Kamala, but we're gonna look at the world on fire and how it's just heating up. Thank you all. God bless you. Take good care of each other. And you have everything you need inside of you to meet the challenges of this day and every other. God bless. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.